day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's Consumer Studies revision lesson. My name is Lillian Dube, and this lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Today, learners, our revision is based on clothing and nutrition. Right. And what do we want to achieve today? It means by the end of this revision, we should have covered clothing and nutrition. Right. We will start with the short, easy questions first, and then we go to the more complex ones. Right. Our first short question says, choose the fashion term in the box that matches the description given below. Right. I will read the fashion terms. We have got the first one says design. We have got high fashion. We have got silhouette. We have got fashion trend. We have got fashion. We have got classic style and fashion fad. Right. So these are the fashion terms, right? Let's go on to our question. So 1.1 reads, a new garment that is worn by a few fashion leaders. So we are supposed to look for one fashion term that describes a garment that is worn by a few fashion leaders, right? And then our 1.1.2 reads the outline of a garment, right? 1.1.3, the individual's difference in style. And 1.4 is a style which remains popular and is worn over a long period of time. And 1.1.5 reads, accepted style worn by many people during a specific period. Right. I will give you 2 minutes to answer these questions. Right. Welcome back, learners. So for 1.1, a new garment that is worn by a few fashion leaders, we call it high fashion. High fashion. So it means people are not yet accessing it. It's still only worn by the fashion leaders. So on the fashion cycle that we discussed in our past revision lesson, we said this stage could be the introduction stage or the launch stage of a fashion item. So this is the time when only fashion leaders are wearing it, or maybe we only see it when they do their catwalk or any other functions that they do. Right. And then 1.1.2 says the outline of a garment is called a silhouette, right? So when we talk about the outline, we're just talking about just a drawing that shows maybe a straight skirt, just the drawing of a straight skirt. This could be the outline of a garment, right? And we call it a silhouette, right? We usually use silhouettes to trace out or to develop other patterns, right? And then 1.1.3 says the individual differences in style. So we call it a design. So we come up with different styles, right? Those styles are called designs, right? We go to our next answer says accepted style worn by many people during a specific period of time. So we call it fashion. So if a fashion is actually a style that is accepted or worn by many people, right? And our 1.1.5 says a style which remains popular and is worn over a long period of time, and we call it a classic style. Something that is classic is something that doesn't go out of fashion. For example, if we look at, let's look at women's clothes, right? We usually say every woman should have a black number in their wardrobe. Just that small or that little black dress would do a lot. It's classic, right? You can just throw on a nice jacket onto it, then wear some high-heeled shoes, then you would look classic. Or you can dress it down, just put on some low heels, and you still remain classic, right? Let's go on to our next short question. Say, choose an example of an additive that matches the function of the additive. Right. I will read out the additives to you. We have got glucose, we have got ascorbic acid, we have got gelatin, we have got turmeric, we have got lecithin, we have got aspartame, we have got sulfur dioxide. So these are food additives, or the things that are added to food to improve their flavor, their taste, their texture, and also improve the color of the food. Right. So we are supposed to choose the function of the additive, or one additive that matches the function below. So a non-nutritive sweetener is the first one. Then we've got an antioxidant, we've got chemical preservatives, and an emulsifier. Right. Just 2 minutes again, learners, for you to match the function and the additive that is given at the top. Right? Welcome back, learners. We want to go to the solutions, right? A non-nutritive sweetener is called aspartame, right? Where do we find aspartame? We usually find aspartame in Coca-Cola or just Coke, right? So the fizzy drink Coke contains aspartame. Or let me write it, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, right? So it contains a non-nutritive sweetener, which is aspartame, just to give it a slightly sweet taste, right? And then an antioxidant is ascorbic acid. What is another name for ascorbic acid? It's vitamin C. Right. So we find ascorbic acid in most of the juices that we consume. Right. And then our chemical preservatives, we have got sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide is one example of a chemical preservative. And then the one that we always talk about is an emulsifier, is lecithin, right? Lecithin is the most commonly used emulsifier, and we have always said that we find lecithin in egg yolks, sunflower seeds, and soya beans, right? We can proceed now to our next short question. We said, complete the table below. So we are only given the name of the additive, and then we are supposed to put the function and also find the food example of that particular additive or where that particular additive is used, right? I'll give you again another 2 minutes, learners, to answer question 1.3. Right, welcome back, learners. So the name of the food additives, we've got nitrate, we've got tartrazine, and we've got sugar. Right, so we'll start with nitrates, right? So nitrate, the function of the food additive is used as a preservative. And remember, on the previous question, we also said sulfur dioxide is a preservative. Sulfur dioxide is also another preservative. So nitrate, sulfur dioxide are both preservatives, right? So their function is to do what? Is to preserve food. They are actually called chemical preservatives, right? Where do we find them? We find them in smoked meat, right? Smoked salmon, stampaloni, and all other preserved meat, right? And then the next one is tartrazine. Tartrazine is the most commonly used colorant, which is actually yellow in color. It gives the food that yellow color, right? Where do we find tartrazine? It is found in cold drinks and some potato chips, the dried crisp chips, right? And then we have got sugar, that is the common sugar that we use at home. It is used to give flavor to the food. So it is used as a flavorant. And the food example, we use sugar in cakes, we use sugar in sweets. At home, we use sugar for so many things in our tea, wherever you use the sugar. So there is lots and lots of functions of sugar or food where we use sugar. Right. We can proceed now to our next question. This is on clothing, right? So our question 1 says, study the pictures and answer the questions that follow. Right, so the first picture shows 1950s fashion. 1950s, that's a long time back. And then this other one on my right is the 2024 fashion, right? Let's just take a closer look at the pictures and then we can answer the following questions. Right, let's go to our questions. Number 1.1.1 says, name the type of fashion style that is inspired by past designs, right? And then 1.1.2 reads, identify if the outfit representing 2024 fashion is a classic or fad outfit. And then you're also supposed to justify your answer, right? And 1.1.3 says, discuss why the 2024 outfit is a good choice as basic item for a woman's working wardrobe, right? So this means a woman that actually works, somebody who goes to work. So they've got a working wardrobe and they've got a casual wardrobe for the clothes that they wear when they're not going to work, right? And 1.1.4 reads, explain how being well dressed for work could influence the person's self-esteem when dealing with clients, right? We give each other again 2 minutes to answer the questions. Right, let's go to our answers. So 1.1 says, name the type of fashion style that is inspired by past design. We call it retrospective fashion. So this is fashion that is done in retrospect, or the fashion designers actually look in the past, or they look at the past, the designs that were used in the past, and then they design something that could fit the current times, or something that fit well in the current times. But they are actually inspired by what? By the designs that they were used in the past. And then they try and design something that could be used in the present. So we call it retrospective fashion, or fashion which is done in retrospect, right? And then 1.1.2 says, identify the outfit representing 2024 fashion is a classic or a fad outfit. So identify if this one that represents 2024 is a classic or a fad, and then you justify your answer. So I want us to take note of this question. This question has got two parts. The first part, you are supposed to identify, right? And the second part, you are supposed to do what? To give justification to your answer. So our answer is, this 2024 fashion is a classic, not a fad, right? So what have we done? We have answered part one of our question, which is identify, right? And then we go to our part two of the question, says justify your answer. Give some justification or give reasons why this is a classic style, right? So classic styles are timeless. It means they can remain in fashion for almost forever, right? And classic styles suit many people, right? So this is our justification part of the answer. So all I'm just trying to do is to conscientize you on answering the questions in the exam. Firstly, we said you must read and understand the question, and then try and answer all parts of the question. So, like I said, we've got part one, which is identify, and our part two of this question is the justification. So, part one has got its own mark, and part two comes with its own marks as well. Right, let's go to our next solution. Says that's 1.1.3. Discuss why the 2024 outfit is a good choice as basic item for a woman's working wardrobe. Right? The first one is its basic color, and it's a classic style. Classic meaning something that is timeless. Right? It complements the body shape, and it is a good fit, and the garment coordinates with classic style shoes, right? And then we go to our next solution is 1.1.4, says explain how being well dressed for work could influence a person's self-esteem when dealing with clients. But here we are looking at a person's self-esteem. I'm sure, learners, you understand that sometimes clothing is a language. We tend to communicate with the people that we meet through the way we are dressed up, right? I am not going to comment on that, but all I'm saying is once you go and meet people, they tend to judge you through the way you are dressed. So clothing is a language that communicates to people that we see. As we walk outside there in the streets, they look at us and we happen to be communicating with them through the way that we are dressed. Right. So here we are talking about the self-esteem when you are dealing with clients. How does being well-dressed, if you get there well-dressed, how does that influence your self-esteem? Sometimes, if you know that you are not dressed properly, you tend to be shy. Sometimes we keep pulling our clothes down, feeling a bit maybe not even confident about ourselves. So that's what clothing does to us. So when dealing with clients, apparently it provides a feeling of confidence and boost your self-esteem. Once you are confident, then everything is likely to come right. You are confident about yourself, you are able to do well in whatever you are doing, right? So it actually reflects a good company image, right? If you are working for a company and representing that company, it will portray a very good image to the client and they would really want to do business with you. But maybe let me just give an example, right? We are going to a corporate meeting. You come there wearing torn jeans. What do you think the client will say? They would never take you seriously. So you need to be presentable. I'm not saying torn jeans are not presentable, but I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from, right? So neatly dressed, presentable will actually make the client have confidence in you. It will give your company that you are representing a very good image, right? So clothing symbolizes values and behavior, right? What are your values and your behavior? Right? That means a lot, right? And then the person will not feel vulnerable when wearing the correct clothes. Sometimes I'm sure you have noticed that some of the clothes that we wear makes us feel very vulnerable, right? We proceed to our next question. Says, read the following benefits of bamboo and answer the questions that follow. Right. I will read the benefits of bamboo to you, learners. So, bamboo is extremely soft. It is hypoallergenic. It is antibacterial. It is super absorbent. It is highly breathable. It is free of harmful chemicals. It is very fast drying. It is resistant to odors. It is bacteria and mold resistant. It is thermoregulating. It also prevents skin irritation. And the last one, it is biodegradable. Right. I will give you a few minutes again for you to answer the questions that follow. Right? Welcome back, learners. Our first question says, is 1.2.1. It says, describe how bamboo is an eco-friendly fabric. And 1.2.2 says, evaluate why bamboo makes an excellent fiber for sports clothing. And our 1.2.3 reads, state if bamboo is a sustainable textile, and then justify your answer. There is another question again with a part 1 and part 2 of the question. And below, in case we've never seen bamboo, this is the bamboo plantation, the green plantation here is the bamboo plant that is actually used as a fiber to make fabrics for the clothes that we wear. Right? Let's go on to our answers. I'm sure you have had enough time to answer the questions. Let's go to our answers. Right? 1.2.1 says, describe how bamboo is an eco-friendly fabric. Right. It doesn't use any pesticide. It doesn't use herbicides, and no fertilizers are used. So that means it is what? It is eco-friendly. Remember, pesticides destroy the environment. These are the chemicals that are used to spray pests that actually eat on the plantation. And then herbicides are also sprayed so that there are no herbs on the plantation, or let me say weeds, so that there is no weed on the plantation. And also fertilizers are used so that the plants could grow even faster and give them a little bit of manure. Right. So it means all these are not used on the bamboo plantation, so that justifies it as an eco-friendly fabric. Right? And our 1.2.2 says, evaluate why bamboo makes an excellent fiber for sports clothing. So what comes into your mind when you talk about sports clothing? We're talking about people who are sweaty, right? Those are people who do sports. So that's the clothing for people who do sports. So what kind of clothing or which characteristics does bamboo have that is going to support or be a good example for sports clothing? Right. So from the bamboo description, we read that it absorbs moisture. So when people who do sports are sweating, the moisture is absorbed from their bodies. Right? Also, it is antibacterial. So meaning that the bacteria cannot attack the clothing that is made out of bamboo. And most of the times we find that our underwear and our socks are made out of bamboo because of its antibacterial characteristics. There is a lot of bacteria that grows on the sock, also on our underwear. So thus it makes bamboo suitable for sport, right? It is also anti-allergenic, which means you do not react to the fabric. You don't develop an allergy through wearing that fabric, and it does not also irritate the skin. I'm sure you have come across some fabrics that when you wear, you get irritated on the skin. right? And then it is also anti-static, right? Anti-static meaning sometimes some fabrics become clammy on the skin. So bamboo is anti-static and does not get clammy when you wear it. Right, we go on to our next solution for 1.2.3 reads, state if bamboo is a sustainable textile and then justify your answer. So our part 1, we are supposed to state if it is sustainable. So how do you answer this? You answer as yes, bamboo is what? Is sustainable. Then we answer the second part of the question, which is the justification. Why do we say it is sustainable? Right. So one reason or one justification is that bamboo is grown and produced in an environmentally friendly way. Environmentally friendly meaning we don't use pesticides, we don't use herbicides, and we do not use fertilizers, right? So this means they are made from a renewable plant. So bamboo is actually renewable in the fact that it is grown and then harvested and then it grows back again, right? So it is a renewable plant, right? And then it requires less water. That is, we save on our water, right? Let's go to our next question. We're still on clothing. The solution 1.3 says, read the case study and answer the questions that follow. Right. Arnold and Christine will begin working for a law company in January. They will be interacting with clients, and the company that they are working for has a dress code. Right? So our question reads, explain the term dress code. And 1.3.2 reads, provide Christine with 2 guidelines when purchasing clothes for work. Right? I'll just give you a few minutes for you to familiarize with the case study. Then we can proceed. Right? Welcome back, learners, to our solutions for the questions. Right. Explain the term dress code. So, dress code is a set of rules about the type of clothing the company expects its employees to wear. Most corporate companies have got a dress code. So they are avoiding people wearing the wrong type of clothing that is going to communicate a wrong message to their clients. So dress code, we have a set of rules. Even at school, we have a dress code, don't we, learners? We have got our uniforms. If you put on a wrong jersey or a wrong blazer, then it means you have broken the rules of the dress code of the school. Right? So 1.3.2 says, provide Christine with 2 guidelines when purchasing clothes for work. Right? She must make sure that the clothes mix and match so that today you can put on these pants and be able to match them with that other top, and then tomorrow this one, and then it matches with the other one. So you must make sure your clothes always mix and match, right? She must also make sure that clothes go with what is in the wardrobe. So sometimes when we buy clothes from the shops, we don't just pick anything. You pick something that you know that you're going to combine it with what you have at home, right? You see maybe a blouse in the shop, and then you say, okay, this blouse is going to match that black skirt that I have at home, and I should be able to put on that jacket with this particular blouse, and then you buy it, right? And then she's also supposed to plan carefully and study the labels, right? We study the labels of clothes so that we know how to take care or how to care for our clothes, right? And then the last one that I didn't write here is your clothes should fit properly. Clothes must never be too tight or too loose. So make sure your clothes fit properly. Again, we are still trying to avoid portraying a bad image for the company, right? And then our 1.3.3 reads, supply Arnold with 2 guidelines when buying shoes for work. So Arnold is the male, and Kristen is the female. So what kind of shoes should male people wear at work, right? The shoes must be of good quality leather. If you buy something that's cheap, then it means almost every month you'll have to buy shoes. So they must be just of good quality leather, right? And we also buy neutral color, right? And bright colors are not recommended, especially for men. But remember, fashion is dynamic these days. With women, they can wear any color. Even men, I've seen them wearing any colors that they want, the bright colors and everything. But if the company comes with a dress code, then they should be able to follow that dress code, right? Without using any bright colors. If you have noticed, most companies try and go for the darker colors, black and white, navy blue, and some other colors that are toned down, right? You must also gather information about the latest trends in footwear. You don't just buy shoes. You buy something that is trending, although the shoes are supposed to be formal shoes and not casual shoes, right? He must also try on his shoes. There is nothing as irritating as shoes that do not fit properly. They wouldn't wait to go home to remove those shoes. They must not be too big and they must not be too small for their size. So you must always buy the right size. And basically, the color of shoes that we are used to is black, right? Black is very formal and it would go with anything. So when we talk about neutral colors for men, we are talking about the brown color and also the dark brown, right? Black also goes in very well, right? Then we come to our next question. Still on clothing, it says, read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Right. I will read the scenario to you. It says, Luna is a South African fashion and lifestyle brand that began in mid-1990s. Since inception, we have strived to create clothing to be as natural as possible, both in fabric and in design, right? We aim to create timeless pieces, right? The scenario continues. As a responsible brand, we know the importance of fair trade and providing decent working conditions for our employees, right? We also recognize the significance of sustainable business practices and the value in empowering local crafters and artists, right? We proceed to the questions now. Right, so Luna Clothing provides decent working conditions for their employees, right? The question is, briefly mention how labor practices can be abused in the clothing industries. Right. So 1.4.2 reads, Luna is a responsible brand. Describe the consequences to the company should their brand be pirated. Right? And then explain an advantage of Luna Clothing empowering local crafters and artists. Right? I'll give you 2 minutes, learners, to also answer the questions. Right? Welcome back, learners. We start with our 1.4.1 says Luna Clothing provides different working conditions for their employees. Briefly mention how labor practices can be abused in the clothing industry. So the following could be the abuse of labor practices, right? Labor practices. So if they do not pay them fair wages, it means they are abusing the labor practices. So workers who work in the clothing industry have got a stipulated amount that they are supposed to pay. But once they pay them less than what they are supposed to pay them, then it means they are abusing the labor practices, right? Sometimes they do not provide good working conditions, right? Let's say with the conditions, let's say the area where they are working in is not clean, there is no ablution facilities or toilets in that particular area, there is no running water for the workers. That means the conditions are not good working conditions. So they will be abusing the what? The labor practices, right? If they use child labor, so using child labor is also an abuse of labor practices. Child labor, we are talking about children who are below 18 years. They cannot make their own decisions at that time, so they cannot be used to work in factory. It is called abuse of labor practices, right? And then if they do not comply with safety and civil laws, right? They are safety and civil laws for people working in different industries or in different institutions or departments. So they are supposed to comply with the safety and civil laws, right? That is, for example, people work in very dusty areas. They need protective clothing. They need a mask to protect themselves from the dust. Sometimes some people who work in mines actually need helmets because it is a dangerous area. They also need safety shoes so that they are protected from any accidents that happen at work, right? And if they do not support the environmental sustainability, sustaining the environment means not dumping anything outside anywhere as they please. So whatever remains they use in their industries, they must dispose of them in a proper way so as to sustain our environment. Right, let's go on, learners, to our 1.4.2 part of the question reads, Luna is a responsible brand. Describe the consequences to the company should their brand be pirated. So here we are looking at the consequences of brand piracy. What is brand piracy? This is when other people copy the products from other companies and produce counterfeit goods, or they produce something that is almost close to that particular product that the original company produces and make something almost similar, but it is not the original brand. So what happens if somebody copies the Luna brand of clothing? Right. The original manufacturer loses income. So it means people who produce counterfeit goods actually sell them at a lower price than the original manufacturer. And sometimes us as consumers find it very difficult to differentiate between the original and the counterfeit one or the false one that has been made. So at the end of the day, we just buy without knowing. So it means the original manufacturer will lose their income and also sales. Their sales will go down, right? And the image of the brand is negatively affected or harmed. Once you know that there is there is counterfeit or fake product for a particular brand, then you actually have a negative effect towards that brand. Apparently, some people would stop that buying that brand totally. So that goes back to losing income and sales, right? Also, the consumers lose faith in the brand, meaning once you lose faith, then you no longer trust the brand, meaning you won't even buy it. Right. It also deprives the national economies of custom duties and tax revenues. So we are not even sure that these people who produce counterfeit or fake goods pay the proper duties and tax revenues, since they are actually selling those products at the lowest price. It means basically they do not pay tax, right? And then the last one says there is no competition in the market. It means the brand that is supposed to be an expensive or an exclusive brand is all over the place. So there is no competition. Right. Let's go on to our 1.4.3 says explain an advantage of Luna clothing empowering local crafters and artists. So once they empower our local crafters and artists, it means they provide an income for local artists and crafters. So it also stimulates the what? The local economy, because they are doing it within our country. They are promoting our people locally and not outside our country. Right. It also provides a platform for local artists and crafters to be recognized locally and internationally, right? Let's move on, learners, to our next question on clothing is 1.4.4 says, discuss the economic and environmental advantages of recycling unwanted clothes. Right, just 2 minutes for you to answer this one. Right, welcome back, learners. Our solution to 1.4.4 says discuss the economic and environmental advantages of recycling unwanted clothing. What do you do with your unwanted clothing? You recycle it. Sometimes you recycle by making some pillows, isn't it? You can actually make a pillow out of old clothes. So that is reusing. We reuse some of our clothes. So we can actually recycle clothes and create a world that is environmentally protected. So instead of just disposing them and throwing them away, we can recycle them, right? We can also sell or exchange our clothes, right? Sometimes old clothes are sold and they benefit other people, right? And clothes can be upstyled. I've seen other people, if they've got jeans and they think maybe they are torn on the knees, especially for children, you can cut them and make shorts out of them. Make something or style it up and make it look different, right? Or sometimes we can donate to other people. There are people who need clothes out there. So just throwing them away is not the best thing to do, but you can donate your clothes, right? And economically, this could be cheaper than buying new clothing, right? So once you recycle your clothes, then it becomes cheaper. If you reuse your clothes, it becomes cheaper, or sometimes you can upstyle them. Right. Let's go to our next revision is on nutrition. Questions on nutrition. It says, read the following advert and answer the questions that follow. So this is about virgin city fields. I will read the advert to you, learners. It says, Virgin City Fields is an organic urban farm in the south of Johannesburg. It is a family business owned by Daniel and Nicole Pius. We are an online store that provides high quality foods that are conveniently delivered to your door. Right? We continue with the advert. It says, we believe in sustainable farming methods that benefit your health and the environment. We also work with other local farmers to bring everything you needed in one store. Let us bring the farm to you. Right. Then we can proceed to the questions. 5.1 says, briefly describe organic foods. And 5.2 reads, give advantages and disadvantages of organic food. And our 5.3 reads, Virgin City Food chooses to work with local farmers. Supply 2 advantages for this choice. Right? 2 minutes for you, learners, so that you can answer the questions. Right, welcome back, learners. Our 5.1, we go to the answer for 5.1 reads, briefly explain organic foods. Right, organic food is produced using farming practices that avoid the use of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. Right? And organic farming emphasizes the use of natural methods to control pests and diseases and to improve the soil health. So I'm sure we understand, learners, that organic farming avoids the use of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. Why? Because these can actually harm the environment, or they are not environmentally friendly. Right. Then we go to our 5.2 part of the question, says give advantages and disadvantages of organic food. Right? We'll start with the advantages. Right? Advantages is that it does not use synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or hormones. Right? And then the next one says crop rotation. They actually use what you call crop rotation to preserve the arable land for the following year, right? Basically, when we talk about crop rotation, you rotate the crops, or you plant this year, next year we don't plant. Plant the next year, the other year we don't plant. Or we plant maize seed this year on the land, and then next year we plant soya beans. So that's what we mean by crop rotation. By doing that, it helps to preserve the land. It actually leaves the soil richer, right? So organic foods have a better flavor. The foods that are produced organically have a better flavor. And also, waste like manure is used. So they use the natural manure. If you remember, we talked about a heap compost, whereby you take the leaves of the veggies that you plant at home, the waste leaves of cabbage, and maybe dump them or put them in a hole closed until they decompose, and then you use that as manure for your plantation instead of using synthetic fertilizer. Right? They also give support for sustainable agriculture, so that we will be able to keep on using our land over and over again. Right. So those are the advantages for organic farming. Right. Then we go to the disadvantages. Right. Organic farming is labor intensive. It means there is a lot of labor that is needed when you have to put the manure and all other things, right? And organic farming could come a bit or very expensive, right? And then the crops that are organically farmed sometimes can be smaller in size. And the fruit come with blemishes, or they may come with blemishes, right? And their shelf life is shorter, meaning they easily decompose, right? Let's move on to our 5.4 part of the question. Says Virgin City Foods chooses to work with local farmers. Supply two advantages for this choice. So local farmers means that the products will be fresh. Why? Because they are used locally. They don't have to be transported for thousands and thousands of kilometers away. Again, they support the local businesses, which means all the revenue comes into our country or it is used locally. And remember, local farmers will be able to do what? To pay tax that benefits our country, right? It also create, or they also create work opportunities for the local people. So they actually create employment for people, right? And the other one is that products are free from pesticides and herbicides. So they are free for our local farmers. They are free from pesticides and herbicides for our local farmers. And organic foods are actually less harmful to humans. Right? Let's move on, learners, to our question 6. Read, study the picture below and answer the questions that follow. As you can see, this is a tomato that is being injected there, right? So 6.1 reads, name the process illustrated in the picture, right? And then we go on to our question 6.2 reads, name 2 benefits for this procedure for the sustainability of food in South Africa. And 6.3 says list the benefits of this procedure for the consumer. Right. I will give you just a few minutes to also answer this question. Welcome back, learners. Now we go to our solutions for the question. For 6.1, it says, name the process illustrated in the picture above, right? So that process represents genetically modified food, right? So we always hear people talking about GMOs, GMO food. So GMO stands for genetically modified organisms, right? Genetically modified organisms means that they actually tamper with the DNA of one organism and try and maybe inject it into another organism so that that other organism gets the characteristic of another organism. So basically, it has to do with DNA manipulation. Right. So sometimes on foods, we see this sign written GMO and then it's crossed. It means this is not a genetically modified food. So that's what that sign represents. I'm sure we have seen it in many foods. Right. And then 6.2 reads, name 2 benefits for this procedure for the sustainability of food in South Africa. So basically, genetically modified foods actually yield more quantity. Therefore, people are more people are fed in the country. So that's how it benefits South Africa. And they are cheaper than organic foods. So genetically modified foods are cheaper than organic foods. So it means most people could actually afford that particular food. You'll find that if you have seen or compared prices organic foods are much more expensive than the GMO foods, right? And then our 6.3 says, list the benefits of this procedure for the consumer. So GMO foods are cheaper for the consumer and they have a longer shelf life. They actually do not decompose easily, especially the fruits that we buy. So they also have got a better flavor and color. At the present moment, we do not even know the side effect of GMO foods. So we cannot say anything about the side effects. Maybe in a later stage, people always say that maybe GMO foods could actually cause cancer and heart diseases in people, but so far it hasn't been proven, right? And then learners, we come to the summary of our lesson, right? We said fashion is the style accepted by a specific group of people at a given time and place. And style is the specific characteristic that makes one product or item different from another. And classic styles are timeless and are always considered tasteful. And fashion trends are the directions in which fashion moves. Right, learners? We have come to the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.